There you go, Chairman.
Mr. Myers, can I get a thumbs up when you're ready?
Yes, sir. You're pretty faint there, Jim.
Want to try your volume a little bit, Mr. Myers? Or you
I
turn
got
it
it
all the way up?
maxed. I got it maxed up.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
you're coming in good.
All right, we're hot with audio.
All right, we're ready. Tonytown Planning Commission, please come to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. Glad to see a good turnout. Would you please stand for the pledge of the flag, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the records reflect the members that are here, and Mr. Myers is virtual. So we have a full commission this evening. Commission members should have received the draft minutes of June the 22nd, 2022. Is there any corrections or additions to those minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for exception.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from July 2022.
I second.
June, I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, is there a second? Bill? Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed likewise? Dan, did I get a thumb up for you? Gotcha, thank you. Carried. Delegation and action items. Garnet Ridge Concept Site Plan Presentation. Would Jim or Darrell like to lead off on this?
Sure. I'm not sure who all's in attendance. Is Earl here?
Yes.
Okay. Can't see. We have Garnet Ridge. It's going to be a concept site plan presentation. And Mr. Robinson's all yours.
Good evening. Martin Rickle with Carroll Land Services, CLSI, Earl Robinson with Ward Communities. We're here tonight to present the Garnet Ridge concept plan. It is a senior community that received, when they did the annexation, they received the approval for a community village ordinance on this one. For that, we have a total of 50 building units. There's 10 triplex and 10 duplex units. We've worked around all the environmental features out there between the wetlands and the forestry, specimen trees, to come up with this layout. So basically, we're here to answer any questions you might have on the drawing, community.
The parking area that's
Out front,
Out
there's a
front here.
commercial area. That would be a future site plan. That's not part of this subdivision.
but is part of your property?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, that is not part of what we're proposing tonight, though.
okay. I'm open for comments.
Yeah, Jim, I got a comment.
Go ahead, Mr. Myers.
Okay. Yeah, your guys' audio is very low to me, but I'm making it out. Sir, I was looking at the sketch plan here, and it looks like the drive or the roadway is going to be like 24 foot wide. Is that typical?
That is from the city's ordinance, yes.
Is it? The reason I asked, I mean, like if you put a ladder truck with outriggers, that takes up 20 foot. Are we going to allow parking on the side of the road with a 24 foot wide?
If it was parking, I'd say one side only.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that'll match the what's out in Carroll Vista and I think in Mead Crossing. And in my opinion, that's kind of tight. But yeah, just okay, gotcha.
Okay. Comments? Could we just drop that, because I can't see if someone else has a question? I can stand up.
Might I suggest that we ask if they can explain a little bit about the overall setup of things as to, condominium versus subdivision and privately owned versus publicly owned streets and so on? Because we often refer to it as the Carol Vista model, but a lot of the commission members weren't around when that was going through the process, so.
Okay, we're proposing this to be a private road owned by the HOA or condominium association, be maintained by them. Here, it would be a condo association, not subdivision. Again, for seniors, which is all in the annexation agreement from the council. It's pretty much a model of what is out at Carol Vista as far as how it's set up.
Okay.
You said 50 units altogether?
Total of 50, which is, I think, what the annexation agreement allowed for the order.
And so that's like 25 kind of duplex type units?
It's 10 duplex and 10 triplex.
We have included for you guys to see the floor plans. We're currently building this product in New Windsor, and the photos that you see here are from New Windsor of what we plan to build. So these are just actual photos that we recently took to give you guys an idea of what we plan to build.
Okay, thank you.
Hey,
Would-
hey,
would you
Jim,
like to
if
come
I
up?
could get people to speak to the microphones, I might better hear.
Ma'am, would you like to come up to the front and identify yourself? Just come, identify yourself, please.
I have sign sheets.
And a sign-up sheet there, too, would you please?
When you first started, I think it was the breakdown that you mentioned, and I wasn't able to hear that. And the other thing, I was wondering if possibly you could turn this around so we could hear you back there, because it's like you're not talking to us. We can't quite get everything you're saying.
Right, maybe just talk clearer into the mic. So it's picked up.
Turn the rendering around so you can see it better. There are 10 triplexes and 10 duplexes scattered throughout with a mix. So it's a total of 50 units, 10 triplexes and 10 duplexes. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mike and sign in.
I know my name first.
And please state your name, so.
My name is Dominic Mouton. My name is Dominic Mouton.
Okay.
I know this is, well,
Please
sorry.
talk into the mic.
I know this is only, of course, a plan and, it's in development and everything else. I'm actually the owner of the property next to you. I'm building the venue Bouchon, which is the wedding venue. So do you mind if I take a look at the plan? And since you're here, I think this, I don't have an issue. I think it's a great idea, okay? I don't have any problem with it. This is my only concern. On our property, and I'm sure you've been there, we have a big 40 by 75 tent, and hopefully we are going to open within the next couple of months. We're going for the final permit. We're gonna have, a few hundred people. My only concern is if we do a wedding on a Friday and you have construction going around the property with the dust, with the noise, and we're having a wedding there, what is that gonna do? So my question would be, when you're starting this project, if it's 6 months or a year, I know you usually go pretty fast, is there a possibility eventually to have a fence, at least on this side of the property, so the guests don't have to deal with the view or the noise? I think this will look great because our tent is actually right there, and it looks like you're having, I don't know what that is, but it's not a house in back of it or anything else. But that's one of my concerns because we will have guests there Friday, Saturday, and the dust coming, and we have a white tent. We just invest a lot of money on the property. And I have no objection, it's just I wanted to know what we can do to make it an easier process for us.
Right. Would you guys like to comment to that?
I will agree to that. So that's fine. If he'd like a fence along the edge there, I will meet with you and we will coordinate it together on what would work for both of us. I'd be happy to.
All right, thank you.
With the request such as that, what type of fence typically would be the preferred barrier?
My first reaction was some type of a PVC of a plastic white. That's what I'm envisioning. But I would be happy to meet with you and come up with something that you would agree to and would please the board. So whatever would work, we would be fine with that. I understand your concern. I think it's a good one. So we'd be happy to address that.
And we're talking about a temporary fence during construction. Is that what we're talking about?
I would not recommend temporary. I would recommend that it would be a permanent fence.
Okay.
You just want to make sure it's actually, and when you come, you should come to the property, we can meet, and you can stay where the tent is. We have elevated somewhat the concrete, so it's kind of high. So a 6-foot fence probably won't do it. It may have to be higher, at least where the
Sure.
is. We have planted 53, but they only grow 3 feet every year.
Right, yes. I'd be happy to address that.
Okay, our ordinance has a height on the fence. What is,
So in residential districts, it's 6 feet. In commercial districts, it can be taller. I don't remember if it's 8 or 10 feet maximum. And in this situation, the part of the property that's along the Route 140 frontage is general business, so there is opportunity to go higher than the 6 feet. I don't recall specifically if it's 8 or 10 feet that's allowed in commercial districts, but you can go a little higher there.
Here's a thought, instead of that type of fence, I don't know what the term is, the earth, you put the berm.
A berm, yeah.
That way you can put trees on it. Aesthetically, might be better for the people that are going to be living on that side as much as the gentleman for his business. So having a fence, I think, I don't know, earthen berm or whatever, I forget.
I think for tonight, just the fact that we have agreement between the two property owners to work it out is, pretty much what we need for this evening. And, the details, if it does turn out to be a fence, at that point, once they reach agreement on what they think will work, we can rule at that time on whether or not it satisfies city code, of course, because that, like many other things, requires permits. So, again, that could be incorporated into the design ultimately, so. But I don't want to get too bogged down in the, details at this point.
there again, this is just a concept presentation. Right. So there's still steps to go.
But this is good to get some feedback right away, and it gives the designers a chance to incorporate comments into the design. So this is good.
Any other comments?
I do have one more. I know we're not there yet. But what about water and sewer? I guess is there going to be something eventually? Because I am on a well right now, and we've talked about that. So, is there something that you're developing there? I'm assuming that it's opening an opportunity maybe for us as well.
Well, according to council, there's 50 allocations for the senior housing for the water. Sewer, we're not sure if it's going to gravity feed through another property or put a small pump station in to come up. We're not sure which way it goes till we get to final.
Okay. Jim, did you want to add something?
All right, so the property will have to be served and connected to the city systems one way or the other. Details yet to be worked out because it is a good bit removed from the existing infrastructure. So that'll be up to CLSI to figure out the best way to do that. But certainly, if it's ends up being relatively near your property, there's always the opportunity to cover that area with a utility easement that could be future extended to reach your property if the design makes sense to do that. So at this point, we don't know if it's going to be in Route 140 or going back to the adjacent property that was recently annexed, or how that's going to lay out.
Do you mind if I take a picture of this? Am I okay with it? Yeah, I'll just, if you don't mind, so at least I know. Thank you.
Okay. Still open for comments. So, Mr. Garner, come to the mic and identify yourself.
My concern is a safety issue. I think your streets are too narrow, and I never knew town approved just one way in and out of a development. It was always standard, we had two ways in. I mean, too many things can happen at the beginning, and you never get back in there for fire or ambulance.
Okay, thank you.
Approximately how much land in terms of trees will be displaced?
We did not get into that with the grading and such yet. This is just a concept sketch or a concept plan. That'll be our next step to see how much is actually taken out.
Okay.
But we do have to stay out of the wetland areas. The plan we have, we've shown some stormwater, but with the new county regulations, even the town regulations, it's going to take up more space for the stormwater. So it's going to remain green areas, but not sure how much yet.
So your property goes from 140 back to the tree line, or does it go beyond the tree
It
line?
goes into the tree line.
Into the tree line?
Yes. It's about half and half, I believe.
Okay.
Right now, it's approximately 1/3 wooded today, 2/3 cleared.
Okay.
Jim, what exactly are we looking at tonight in terms of this concept proposal? What is the commission, what are y'all looking for?
Actually, it's down as presentation only,
Okay, so we're just receiving information.
information tonight. And I don't know if we have enough information yet that we would want to accept this for distribution or not. Jay or Jim, somebody want to respond to that?
So just, I'll jump in with a little bit of background on the property again, since we have a lot of folks who weren't here when this property was annexed. The annexation agreement for this property designated it upon annexation as R10,000 and general business with a community village overlay on the R10 portion. So that's a step that's already been taken care of. Typically, there's a process involved with that the property owner applies with the mayor and council for that community village designation. In this particular situation, that was done as part of the annexation. The annexation agreement also specified that it was not to exceed the 50 age-restricted dwellings on the property. So the concept does honor what the annexation agreement required. The property is currently on the water and sewer master plan in the long-range category, meaning we will need to do a water and sewer master plan amendment. On the water allocation side, our allocation resolution shows enough water to serve the property. On the wastewater side, the sewer side, that's going to be the challenging point right now. We have a number of projects approved for this budget year, and our consultant engineer is developing a request for a proposal to put that out to bid for a number of sewer replacement and relining projects that are targeted to reduce inflow and infiltration and recover some of our capacity that's lost essentially to rainwater now. So we will need to have some detail to share with the county so that we can do that water sewer master plan amendment as this is going through the process, because if we don't get that amendment, ultimately, we're not going to be able to get anything recorded. So there's a few things that have to happen concurrently with this to try to meet everyone's schedule.
Okay. Jay, do you have any comments? I guess he's not available. Mr. Myers?
Oh, there's Jay.
Okay, go ahead, you're here.
We can't hear you, Jay, sorry. Although the bars are moving.
Yeah.
Sorry, still can't hear you.
Looks like Dan's messing with some.
Yeah, Jay, we'll have to circle back, see if we'll get our technical stuff resolved here. Thanks.
All right.
May I see the concept rendition? Thank you.
Still don't have it, Jay.
Any idea approximately how far? So it looks like this would be green.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Seems like this would be green space. Approximately how far away these parking places are projected to be from the property line?
This is not even part of the plan. It was just a generic layout we put out to show it was commercial.
Jay, can you hear that?
Okay. So when it's,
It's just a holding piece right now. Showing
Okay.
okay.
That's it.
Okay. All right, Jay, we've got you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of the details that you're normally used to dealing with as a city manager said were worked out when the annexation occurred to narrowly tailor the use of this property. So it's going to be a lot more expedited than the other properties you've dealt with. They're almost going to be able to go just right into their plan design, which is what you're dealing with now. And they'll be held up by the APFO ordinance, the Adequate Public Facility Ordinance, like any other project, if there is an availability when they need it. So it shouldn't really, you don't have to delay at this stage. There'll be other catches at the later stage if that has to happen.
All right, thank you. So then I guess to answer your question, Lee, we're looking for a motion to accept the concept plan as presented for distribution. That means you to go out to the agents,
We'll go out to the agencies.
to the different agents, the county agencies for
So,
comments.
and just to put a little extra information to the process there, at the concept stage, there's not a whole lot for different review agencies to review. So we don't have any erosion and sediment control, no grading, no stormwater management, no lighting plans. We don't have any of the detail that some of the county agencies or the Soil Conservation District will review yet. But if you're comfortable with accepting this as the concept and the basic framework, that allows CLSI to develop all of those things, which will ultimately come back to you as the preliminary plan. That's where they will have figured out how the project's going to be connected to water and sewer, if the stormwater facilities and the environmental site design aspect, which is still, we haven't had that many projects here in Tonytown that have fallen under the new environmental site design regulations. We have had one or two site plans, but I don't think we've had any residential projects that have had to follow those new guidelines yet. So this is going to be something new for all of us as far as a residential project goes. But right now, there's nothing really to distribute to the review agencies. We can certainly share it with the Carroll County Planning Department, so they're aware that it's going to be coming, and then we will have a pre-submittal meeting with Carroll County Development Review when things are a little farther along.
All right, thanks for clearing that. Sir, come to the mic and.
Good evening. My name is Steve Marsalek, and I'm wondering, is there any plan to widen 140 in this area?
I think that's a state highway type question. Jim?
Right, because the access does go to a state road, State Highway Administration will provide comments, and if they deem it necessary to have a deceleration lane or something along those lines, that will be a requirement for the development to get the access permit. So that really will be kind of up to the State Highway Administration. We can certainly share the commission's opinion on the matter, but ultimately it'll be a state highway decision.
And I missed the explanation about ingress and egress. How many ingress and egress areas do we have on here,
Into the property?
in this property?
I believe just one.
Just one.
One bifurcated entrance.
Is there not a regulation that would require two?
Not at this point.
Right. Usually 50 dwellings is kind of our threshold.
Right.
That when we get more than 50 is when we start looking at a secondary access point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll go back to looking for a motion for approval on the concept plan. Would somebody like to make that a motion? I'll make that a motion just to get it on the floor. Now I'm looking for a second. I mean, we're here for, okay, second by Bill. Any further discussion? Any more comments from the floor?
So to be clear, this motion is merely we've received the information. There's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes, this is only the concept.
Thank you.
A lot of steps to go through.
Oh, yeah, this is, yes. All right. So all those in favor of the motion to accept this concept plan as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Myers?
Yeah, since it's a concept plan.
Okay, it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you, folks. And thanks everyone that gave their opinions and thoughts on it.
I'm sorry?
We'll be talking about this for
Oh, yeah.
couple months.
I feel like we're gonna hear about the untrained exit quick. Since there's only one, that's got a dwellings for this one space.
Well, we had that other issue. We'll talk about it. All right, moving forward. Ordinance and agreement for review. Doesn't appear to be any. Daryl, you want to go on to your report?
Just a heads up, storage today should be back in front of us next month. They're going to have to repost, but not re-letter,
Okay.
and come in and give us more information. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot.
Before you leave the storage today, the issue with the frogs, toads, whatever, are we addressing that some way? I know they had the same issue with the 30 bypass.
Yep.
So,
Well, we got an opinion that's in your email. It's a copy, but there will be environmental site aspects looked at with regard to the site. Remember, they moved almost everything off of any treacherous bad place. That's why that facility is to be so much smaller. So, but yeah, I'm not sure which county agency, but they will look into that.
Part of the site plan review does include an aspect regarding, I think the code refers to it as sensitive areas. So that will be looked at. I think in the case of the Route 30 situation, I think that was found by a more official entity, where this one is an observation from a neighbor. So, that may or may not be a professional opinion. So we'll leave that up to the professionals.
okay.
And just to clarify for me, I appreciate the copy in here. To which project specifically does the bog turtle concern go?
Storage today.
Storage today,
And the crane master.
down by Crane Master. Thank you.
All right, Daryl, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I just wanted you to have this so we can, it'd be memorialized. Other than the other business we have later, I have nothing further for a report.
Okay, and I'll wait till you get on to your project for the next question. Go ahead.
Okay? And again, more of the same. I have nothing else to report.
Okay, where do we stand on the final approval for the volume of property, phase one?
Okay.
With all the letters that we got here, I really don't know where we stand.
Okay, fair enough. So there were a number of letters that were not sent to Tonytown. So we got that all squared away. Don't know what happened, but in May 23rd or something, two important letters did not flow to our engineers. Anyway, that's been squared away, but playing a little bit of catch up. So to my knowledge, CDM Smith has responded to all the larger review letters, and we're still waiting for a response back from Carroll County.
So the final approval has not been
So there's a final
executed
site.
yet?
Yes, no, it is not. But like things like ADA, we're waiting for a letter from that. That seems to be a challenging letter to get sometimes by way of the channel. We've had that at least one other time since I've been here. But I'd say that there's final for development review. The landscaping, I believe we're still working out.
Correct.
And just a final from Carroll County Planning. So I'd say there's 4 letters that I'm waiting for.
Okay. All right,
Well, a lot better than last month, I'll tell you that.
all right.
Mr. Chairman, while we're talking about Bollinger Park, I wanted to just point out something real quick. There was some discussion last month about the position of the parking lot, which some of you may recall if you were involved when this was presented many months ago. The parking lot was positioned closer to the road, in part due to security concerns of it being farther back in the woods. And so that was perceived as a positive by the neighbors, or at least some of the neighbors several months ago. But also in addition to that, the idea of pushing it back farther into the woods results in more tree clearing. And the plan currently, with the existing parking and trail network that does go through the woods, it removes 3.99 acres of trees as it is. So what that equates to is having to plant 798 trees on site to make up for those. So you can imagine and these need to be 1-inch caliper trees, so we're not talking about a small financial undertaking. And to push the parking lot farther back would really increase the disturbed area, the disturbed forest area, the requirement to plant more trees, and of course, the cost to the city as well. So I don't know that was kind of given. I know that we did end up with conditional approval with it as it was, but just wanted to call that to your attention because I don't know that we necessarily spent as much time on that aspect as we should have, just in the climate of things last month.
Yeah, we did have quite a bit of public concern about it, so.
So, and, just want to stress that there are, implications to every little decision along the way.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Darryl, you want, construction projects, you want to move anything through there?
I'm still working on removing a couple items from the construction phase projects, namely Tannery Barn. Duffy's almost ready to start. I believe his building is being delivered next month, and the machine for that building the month after that. But yeah, so basically with Tannery Barn, and we're still trying to work out the sheets, stormwater management stuff, and that should be pretty easy. So I'm really excited about getting, I think very soon, 3 months or so, a few of these items off of here. It would be nice, wouldn't it? Because
Yeah.
it looks pretty impressive. It's a
Yeah,
big
it is.
list. But, so just some more housekeeping.
Okay. Not necessarily it's a construction phase project, but is there anything happening at the service station, used car dealership at the end of East Balmer Street across from McDonald's?
I've gotten a couple of calls on that. I've heard nothing from the property owner, and I've seen nothing come in. I haven't heard anything out in the, the weeds, but they did a pretty good job cleaning things up.
They did.
Okay. Okay.
I know the property managers have met with our economic development director, so they're all hoping to land a tenant for the space.
Yeah.
Or potentially one who will redevelop.
Okay. Okay, I guess we'll move on to legal update. Jay, do you have anything for us for this evening?
Yeah, let me give you an update on the Sewell annexation. As if you're not aware, the city council voted in the affirmative on the resolution at the last month's meeting. And so after that date, there's a 45-day holding period to see whether the resolution can be petitioned to referendum. If that happens, then everything is on hold until the referendum occurs. If that doesn't happen, then the property is in town, and I would imagine it's going to move at the pace that the Meads Crossing project did. This will be quite a drawn-out affair. I would think that you're familiar. Earlier today, we talked about how there was an annexation agreement that already allowed for community village to occur on the earlier property. That is not the case in this situation. So the applicants would then start to put together their plan of what they want to see out there, and then be coming to the city, both you and the council, for community village designation. And that would just be step one in, I would imagine, in a quite lengthy process. So I wouldn't expect that you would see something anytime soon on that, but that's a future project list if it goes through.
All right. Thank you. Anybody have anything for Jay? All right, thanks, Jay.
All right.
Okay, county update. Tiffany. You got a lot here.
There's a lot, but I'm going to shorten it a little bit here. The work sessions have begun on the comprehensive rezoning with the Planning Commission. The spring 2022 spring amendment to the 2019 Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan went for a public hearing on July 14th for the Board of County Commissioners. The Transportation Master Plan, the Planning Commission will begin reviewing chapters next month on that, so that's moving right along. Annual report was submitted with Tonytown's information as well, Tonytown's annual report to MDP, Maryland Department of Planning, on the 1st, and was presented to the county commissioners on the 14th. And the hazard mitigation plan should be available for review in a month or two on that. Okay. Any questions?
Any questions for the county?
All right. Thank you
very much. Other business. I guess we'll take them in order, I guess. The solar energy code for Tonytown. And I think everyone has something in their packet. Jim or Daryl, one of you?
So solar energy, our code doesn't really speak too much about it. I'm talking about the big solar farms. I did meet with an individual who is interested in a property here in town. He'd like to basically put a large solar panel farm.
In the town limits?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the way these programs work, they get certain funding from, I believe federal. And what they have to do is they have to sell a certain amount of that power back to it's income based. So it does help the community, but it didn't have a whole lot of information to give right now because they have a lot of homework to do to set this up, because it's for as many solar panels you see popping up on roofs everywhere, these solar panel farms, if you will, there's a lot to it.
The one that's on the roofs now on residential properties, how are they governed? Are we going by the county, or do we have our own?
So,
go ahead.
So basically, it's a zoning certificate that I will issue, and then the county follows up really with the electrical and the way it's mounted, from a construction standpoint. So, but the big solar farms or solar energy generating systems, we don't have anything on in our code. And then we have to look at, you know, if you have a bunch of solar panels on a piece of commercial or industrial property, is that beneficial? Whereas it could be a building that's manufacturing something and employing people. And how does that rate or affect our tax base, quite frankly? Because we don't have a lot of industrial land currently. So those are the things we have to think about.
Well, the solar panels are very quiet.
That's true.
The person that approached you, did he or she have a particular location in mind, and if so, what size?
They did. I think it's in the 15-acre range.
Okay. So what are you asking of us other than?
So, and we don't have to do this right now tonight, but to know this document that I sent in the packets, we need to do something. We need to have the code speak to something when it comes to solar panels, because they're, you know, that interest and need is only growing.
So is that something that this commission needs to make a recommendation to the city council to go with, follow the county's ordinance, or what's the process here?
So our zoning ordinance is independent of the counties, but that doesn't mean that we don't do some R&D, you know, research and duplicate from time to time. So that's why the county information's in your packet. They do have a whether or not it's determined that something like community solar, where we take, you know, a 20-acre parcel and dedicate that to, you know, solar generation, whether that's a viewed as a good option for the city or not, you know, we'll cross that bridge a little bit, you know, a month or two from now, I guess. But the rooftop systems we talked about are really just considered customary and incidental to the dwelling. So just like a shed or, you know, a garage, you know, would be incidental to the residential use. So that's how we've been permitting them for years now, with the code not really speaking to solar at all. When we get into something that could be ground mounted, though, we haven't had a lot of pressure for that, but we don't have any setback regulations for that. And as the technology advances, you know, we may see more things like the monopole where the panels, you know, follow the sun, things like that, you know, may be more affordable to a homeowner, you know, going forward. So we probably do need to start thinking about at least things like ground-mounted solar or accessory solar on industrial or commercial properties that may not be rooftop mounted. I can't imagine it's not coming our way. So whether we opt to allow it to be a primary use, like a community solar farm, or just an accessory use, you know, remains to be seen. But I think either way, we do need to come up with some setback regulations, and taking a look at the counties is always a good starting point to kind of see what our neighbors around us, outside of us, are doing. So while the mayor and council ultimately will introduce and pass an ordinance, as we typically see, they also like to hear from the planning commission as to your opinion as a group as to whether or not we should move forward when it comes to zoning related matters. So technically the mayor and council introduces it, you get to review it and comment on it, and then it goes back to the mayor and council. We have a public hearing, and then it can be voted on after the hearing. Typically, we like to ensure that everybody's on the same page before we go through all that effort.
So actually, if there is a solar farm, there is no income to the city other than property tax, right? No assessment or
Right.
anything?
Right, and that's, I'm actually awaiting a call back from the commercial assessor at the Carroll County Office of Assessments and Taxation. They just have some turnover there and currently don't have a commercial assessor. She starts next week, I think. So we wanted to ascertain whether something like a solar farm is, are those panels considered an improvement like a structure would be? If it is, then that has a certain effect on our assessable base. But if they're treated like a movable shed in your backyard, then we just get the value of the land, which we would get whether or not it's developed. Whereas if it was developed into a building or, something that would employ people, it would probably generate more revenue. And that's, of course, not speaking to the environmental aspect of, renewable energy, though.
Right.
So they've got to go someplace.
Okay, thank you.
May someone define, there was industrial 1 and 2 districts and commercial 1, 2, and 3 districts. How are they different?
I think for the county, I'm not sure if that's light and heavy. Yeah, we didn't print that part out, did we?
Yeah, we need to tweak, this is the county's version, but it gives you an idea, like the setbacks, 200 for residential, 100 for commercial type setbacks.
So does.
We'll email out what those designations stand for.
So are y'all thinking that this will be like possibly a work group between council and staff, or is this mainly going to be a staff research and develop/duplicate?
I expect it'll be largely staff.
Okay. Because I'm personally very interested and would like to be a part of any
Okay.
thing.
Sure. So, and again, we just, are providing the county as for comparison and maybe a starting point as to, well, the county allows this kind of setback, what makes sense for us? So.
That'd be good, Lee, because I got kind of lost going through this. It seemed like I was going in the same circle.
Okay.
So it'd be good to have someone like yourself being on both commissions and the council.
Yeah. County code is structured differently than ours when it comes to land development and things like that. Yeah, it's not quite apples to apples when you try to compare it to our zoning code or our
There is no straight
subdivision
line.
code. No.
All right. Urban mixed zone. Kind of got lost on that one too.
Okay. Me? Okay. Alrighty. So
Actually, I couldn't find it in the code.
that's what we're here to talk about. So with our 2010 comprehensive plan, in the, I guess it was the implementation chapter is where we really spoke to it. We talked about the handful of properties that it involves that is pretty much behind our Main Street area, between that area and Allendale Lane, or between that and the FP Duffy site that we talked about earlier. It doesn't encompass that entire area, but basically from the stream to the downtown. So in the 2010 comprehensive plan, we talked about this being changed from industrial to urban mixed use in order to better transition from the downtown area into the industrial area to the south. It's one of the few remaining undeveloped parcels of significantly sized acreage directly adjacent to downtown. High-density mixed-use development on this site, rather than single-family residential or industrial development, would be the more logical extension of the core of the community. Other smaller parcels in this area were changed from industrial to urban residential, given the existence of residences and community-oriented establishments. And let's see, that's about all that we said about the urban mix. But basically, it's, as you know, our downtown is a mixture of residential and commercial uses, generally things that aren't supposed to generate a lot of vehicular traffic for the downtown business district. And the 2010 comprehensive plan envisioned not having an industrial use, but what's largely a smaller scale commercial and residential area. So what we never did was adopt district regulations to have it in the zoning code to talk about exactly what you can do in that district and any types of setbacks. There was some talk of essentially allowing all the residential uses that are allowed in the R6000 district. There was some concern about that because of the way, I suppose, our existing R6000 tends to be underparked, and a number of dwellings were converted to apartment use without addressing parking at the time. So we do have some issues in the R6000 district pertaining to parking. But it does allow a variety of dwelling types. It's our most permissive residential district, and it has very modest setbacks. So the plus side of that is we get a lot of development in a smaller footprint. So the assessable base per square mile, not that we're going to have a square mile of it, but if you looked at it, compared to the same size parcel of R10, the assessable base will be higher because of that density. And you also have a higher assessable base per linear foot of infrastructure when you have a higher density. But when we talked about this 10 years ago, I think we were also envisioning some non-residential uses to be incorporated into that area. The challenge is, if we do want to move in that direction, what kind of non-residential uses will be viable without primary street frontage in an area like this? So those are some of the questions that are involved in figuring this out, but we have had some interest in the property recently. Some has been very specific from nearby property owners, kind of watching out for their best interest. Others have been more of a, high density, more urban residential development interest. And before anything other than industrial can happen, we need to figure out, what we see as a good use for that area and what will benefit Tonytown. And if we can come up with something that will benefit Tonytown that is appealing to a developer, maybe we'll see something move there.
Well, it's kind of like the development that we just approved a concept plan on. We've got a residential area between general business and commercial. So is that what we're looking at when you're saying Urbana?
Yeah,
I mean, I can't seem to picture where we're talking about other than maybe the glass property.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this would be what's on the map is let's see, the majority of the glass property, maybe 2/3 of it, basically from the stream to the downtown, and a handful of parcels on the far side of Warehouse Alley, where the old creamery building is, and a couple parcels that are between that and where Benner Lane makes the 90-degree turn. So, and on this map, it also shows the police department parcel being included in that urban mix.
Okay.
So on those parcels, one of those parcels has an existing dwelling. The others are utilized for parking or are just undeveloped at this point.
Okay.
And the city has a well site back there as well that's currently not in production. So what I'm hoping to get some conversation started on is what fits back there that benefits the city, hopefully something that will also put some potential customers adjacent to our downtown in walking distance to the downtown that maybe will help foster a stronger business environment for the Main Street area as well. So, and I'll just throw out some ideas. Do we allow condominium type development or townhouse type development back there? Should it be a combination of, triplexes or duplexes or, something other than your typical single family R10,000, rectangle? So what do we see as beneficial to the city to go back there? And as I said, the 2010 plan envisioned that ideal use not being industrial. So currently, the types of things that could go back there would be like another mini storage or some sort of manufacturing. But as an industrial use, we also had designated a lot of limits to the access to the area. I think primarily because we didn't want to see tractor and trailer traffic trying to navigate Benner Lane or Warehouse Alley or Rhine-Dollar Street. You know, if it goes in a direction other than industrial, maybe those prohibitions can come off the parcel and, you know, develop more of a connected street grid.
How about just extending general business area?
Well, I mean, that's your drive-throughs, your car dealerships, and your gas stations. So if that's the, you know,
It could be a hardware store too.
That's true. I mean, there's
It's
any
only
number
20
of
years
parcels in
young.
the city that could have a hardware store tomorrow
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to do a site plan. So,
So any thoughts from the commission?
So just to specify, I'm looking at the wonderful world of Google Maps. This is behind the tannery barn area?
yes,
And there is, it looks like that's where the stream is, where the bridge goes over? Like,
yes,
okay.
right. That's kind of a water course that kind of cuts, I don't know what, maybe a 30-degree angle across.
Was the tannery barn looking at possible a parking area or something back here?
They've been exploring options on that for quite some time.
Because that would save a lot of issue with these people parking on York Street, along the street,
In many ways, safety-wise.
and then as far as walking, and that would mean, that would do a lot as for the safety and welfare of the community.
I know the owner has been in talks with, you know, with nearby property owners trying to figure that out.
Okay.
And is there a general leaning that, like you had mentioned, a few residential options, like possibly residential with some shops? Or is that just kind of silly because we're way out in the middle of nowhere versus, I guess, northern Montgomery County was once like that, and we know that that's been engulfed. But there are some very nice, like, town centers, village areas.
Certainly.
Down there that have,
You're
that
right.
even though they're surrounded, they're still very nice.
And yes, that's the very interesting point, I think, that, you know, and certainly, as they say in real estate, location, location, location. You know, we've found that very much like with our community village ordinance, that what we see being built 20 miles away doesn't seem to have, generate the appetite from builders here in Tonytown, as we saw with the Meads Crossing project, for example. That apparently our more rural location is apparently, and I have heard this from multiple builders, is not conducive to that sort of neo-traditional pattern that we were seeking with our community village. And I've seen some very nice small town center type areas in Montgomery County. You know, again, that is kind of a different world from Tonytown. But from a design standpoint, it's nice that it puts things in walking distance for people. You know, and there is, you know, a customer base, you know, right around the small businesses. You know, we're typically not talking about any like massive scale, like big box type things, but more service-oriented businesses or convenience type things. And I don't know if there might be some viability to that type of use in this area. You know,
We got to be careful with that, Jim, don't we? We got to take care of the people downtown.
and that's another aspect, is we don't want to build something shiny new on the backside of Main Street and have things sucked away from Main Street as a result.
Yeah, we got to be.
So
careful.
it's a challenging question, and you know you know, we often, and hopefully next month we'll have our economic development director will have a little presentation that kind of speaks to what he hears that, you know, the community wants versus what, you know, prospective business site locating people look for. And, you know, it kind of comes down to the scale that we're at, the population that we're currently at, you know, that we aren't large enough to support a larger business community is what we frequently hear from, at least from larger entities. But even our downtown shops, we're seeing things last a bit longer, not universally. I mean, we still have a lot of turnover, but we have seen, a handful of businesses that have lasted for quite a few years now, which is positive. And, our uptick in population, maybe we have more people to support the downtown businesses now. So, and, again, if we have more dwellings in walking distance to the main street, that may help spur, reinvestment in Main Street. So, and I think that's kind of one of the underlying reasons behind that land use designation in the 2010 plan.
Okay.
So something to complement Main Street, not rob from it.
Yeah, there's going to be more discussions on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have-
So
we'll
so
carry-
that's the food for thought.
Right.
And I'd love to continue the conversation. And if in your travels out and about you see some kind of mixed use or high density areas that are attractive and seem to be functioning, snap a picture. Tell us where it is. And we can always do a little investigation as to the codes that allowed that to happen. Because oftentimes we'll see something that it's like, geez, that's really cool. Oh, we can't do that because our code says this. So this is kind of a clean slate idea right now. And,
Maybe we need a professional building back here with doctors, a dentist, physical therapy,
Yeah, and
a destination point.
right. And it's interesting that, as much as we have grown over the last, say, 20 years, we've had a lot of challenge with getting additional medical services, in the city, certainly for a full-time basis. We do have, a professional center that's occupied, by doctors on certain days of weeks and things like that. But, that's relatively modest considering the growth we've had. And, we still have the same handful of medical professionals that we had, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's what we hear at the staff level frequently from developers is that, we just don't have the demand for additional commercial, that, people can't find someone to lease or develop their commercial property. And it's not at all unusual for, somebody just to float the question of, what do you think about rezoning me to residential? Because they can't find somebody who wants to build a
Right.
a convenience store or a small shopping center or an office building. There just doesn't seem to be the adequate demand for that to be successful, or at least that's how it's perceived. So a lot to think about, but please do put on your thinking caps, come back ready to kick some ideas around next month. I know it's a lot, but this has been kind of sitting as it is for a long time, and if we can come up with something that we think would benefit the city, we can see if it's, viewed as a marketable proposition or not. So.
Okay.
Seem kind of silly. I'm just thinking of some sort of like brainstorming forum, like maybe could y'all initiate some sort of like Google forum and then share it with everybody on the planning commission. And so we can just dump ideas there. And like, right away there was, Eisenberg had, talking about the Main Street business interest versus the shiny and new. So just a place that we can maybe get the ball rolling before we're all together again.
Yeah.
But just something.
Okay. All right, move on to the other one then. The Tonytown Community Comprehensive Plan goals. So, Jim, I guess you want to pick that up?
I'll pick it up.
Okay, Darryl?
It's all right. So the Tonytown Community Comprehensive Plan goals we'd ask that you look over the 11 points. Look over the points and see if there's anything that you may want to change. In that, Mr. Myers is here. He had a couple items that he'd like to share.
Okay.
Instead of just starting from scratch, you look at what we have and see going forward what we may want to change or not.
Okay. Somewhere I thought when we did our master plan that we had something in there about the public safety and welfare for the community, and I couldn't find that anywhere in here, that phrase. Jim, do you recall us talking about that and that being part of our initial goal?
I don't recall that as a comprehensive plan goal, but if you give me a minute, I'll see if I can find that. I know what you're referring to. I think you're referring to our vision statement and mission categories. I think that's where that is mentioned. And those are kind of derived from the goals of the comprehensive plan, but give me a couple minutes to dig around on my
And I was going to
in my
say,
folders
that
here.
seems like a theme that was in some of the 11 goals, like under land use and growth management, walkability, residential. There were several places in transportation, free movement of all types, pedestrian, wheelchair, bicycle. So there were a lot of inclusive phrases and terms that made me think of safety and welfare, but it seems like it was infused into a lot of those goals.
Okay. Maybe while you're looking, Jim, Mr. Myers would like to bring his points to view.
Yep.
Dan, are you
Sure.
ready?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Overall, I was pretty good with everything that was written. I think the vision it still is probably appropriate for what we want to do. Under transportation, there was a mention about the Antrim Boulevard extension. I still think that should be in the vision that we have here. But I guess what I wouldn't mind, I haven't really heard a lot about that lately. It was a big thing for a while, and I really haven't heard anything. So whether we talk about it tonight or sometime in the future, I just would like to hear, kind of what the status of that is, and what are the holdups, et cetera. So that was my one comment. And again, I don't think maybe not for tonight, but I would just ask that we all get updated on that.
We're acquiring a parcel of land in the want to extend that. So I would think that's still currently appropriate.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Yep, I agree. And I guess it was last month we talked about purchasing that land. Yeah. So, yep, that's great.
Before we move on, didn't we just have a conversation with State Highway or something about the projects in the next coming years? Wasn't there a?
So the county is working on a countywide transportation master plan. We've had some conversations and at least an initial meeting with county staff on that. I think the pandemic kind of stalled that, if I recall correctly, but I think efforts are spooling back up. In broad terms, the state in the 1990s got rid of all the proposed bypasses, because they were considered contributors or facilitators for sprawl development. So ours, along with many other, were taken out of the long-range transportation plans. We do need to have the road added back to the highway needs inventory, I believe it is. And we also need to work on getting it added back to the Carroll County priority list that's issued, priority letter that's issued to MDOT every year. We typically do attend the annual Department of Transportation tour where they go around to each county and present, overall state projects and transportation objectives. And then they usually zero down onto, what's happening in that specific county. And that's also the opportunity for staff and then elected officials to talk about their needs and It may be, thank you, Mr. Secretary, for widening Route 32 in my jurisdiction. Or it may be, where do we stand on widening 32, or things like that. But that's our opportunity to have a face-to-face with the secretary, the various sub-agencies of Department of Transportation, including State Highway Administration. And we usually try to keep the bypass on their radar screen, but in the last several years, it has not made the county's priority letter. So that's an effort that we're undertaking currently to try to get that reinstated.
How come?
Just not deemed the priority, and keep in mind, we're competing with the traffic, at 97 and 32 down by the county line, Eldersburg, and then at the statewide level, our numbers are being compared to like the inter-county connector and all those things. So as far as a needs evaluation, we just don't rank when it comes to a statewide, planning exercise like that. So but we're trying to focus locally right now and try to develop the local support, and maybe we can, at least get back on that county priority letter and the highway needs inventory. Getting into the consolidated transportation plan is probably much farther along, because that's where we actually start talking about engineering and, design and construction funding and things like that. And that's probably many years out, unless something dramatic shifts. But we can start our lobbying efforts and, just at the local level, work with the county, try to get back on their letter. Once we're on their letter, then we can start, going back to the state. But right now, it's hard to, we can't really skip over that. Well, according to the county, this isn't a priority. So we're going to pursue the county priorities. So.
Cool.
Okay, Mr. Myers, you had a second item?
Yes, under number 9, housing and community design. So on the second bullet, we talk about we want to have a wide range of housing types, density, affordability. So I guess my biggest concern is with the density. So I think the way it's written, technically it is true. We could possibly leave the same, but if I look back at the latest develops, we had Carroll Vista, we got Meach Crossing, and now we're going to do this other look at this other concept plan we just seen this evening. So all these are, in my opinion, are high density areas. So I would really prefer that if we were not looking for high density developments in the future here, I think we got enough of those. So I don't know if that, however you guys agree or disagree, that's my opinion. And so if I had anything I wanted, I would change that wording to maybe not lead you to think that we want high density developments. Over here. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else have comments?
Currently within the town structure, number 7, community involvement, this is more just a curiosity question. I know Parks and Rec sometimes steps into the goal for that. I'm just wondering, has there been an ad hoc committee, or is there currently kind of an enduring group of people that seek out relationships with local school opportunities, churches, civic and sports organizations to kind of broaden that community? Because I know whenever we have a need or a want to, let's say, decorating during the holidays, it's always like 2 or 3 people. Like, it's hard to get people up and out. So is there anything currently in existence?
Well, over the years, we tried a bunch of different things, the ambassadors, when we were starting the community action groups, that sort of brought some people out. The community center, the space is just too small. But Councilman, I don't know what makes a volunteer. A third of them are in this room right now. Right. You know what I mean? So it's people who are busy. That's not their priority. I used to always think that meetings like this, they start too late in the day because it kills your evenings. It's done. You can't start anything, you can't do anything after it, as a for instance. And you sort of got to meet people where they are. You know, it's the sideline of a baseball game or a football game, and you sort of get things going that way. Or, yeah, the recital. You know, and just, hey, I got this going on. Want to help? You know, kind of thing. Age-old question, man.
You think maybe it's the age difference that we're going through now, the different ages of people? You kind of go through a phase. I mean, you start out as a teenager, you get involved with sports and stuff, so then you can't be active in something else. Next thing you know, you get a girlfriend, then you're off to college or your service or something else, and then you move on, you know, to something else, and then you start having children, so then you're tied up with the family. It just kind of, are we looking at maybe the group of ages of the people? What do we have? We have something put together in the town of our geographic age group, don't we?
Yeah,
Where do we fit in something like that?
Even just a
do we have-
breakout of
do-
like how many people in certain age ranges we
Right.
have. I mean, we can pull that together.
I mean, what percentage, there again, we're talking about a late age limit community. What group of people do we have up in that 60 plus and maybe the 20 to the 35, you know? And that was the whole idea with Meade Crossing, by having a mixed housing, that you would move from one step to another as you develop through your ages. So
That gold circle
I
of
think
life,
that's
right.
what ties a lot of people up in being involved.
You have to find projects that people are interested in becoming involved in. That's the biggest thing when it comes to volunteerism, is if they don't feel that the project is worth it, they are not going to volunteer their time for it. For instance, we're in an economic crisis right now. Whether people really have the time to go down Main Street and hang stuff up is questionable. But one of the things we see over at our store is people are asking to volunteer left and right. We don't take volunteers because people should be paid for their time. But people want to volunteer. You just got to find projects that are worth their time to volunteer for, that they feel that it is worth their time to put into. And again, I think that is part of the problem that community involvement aspect kind of lacks, is you got to find stuff that these people want to become involved in.
Right.
And
Yeah.
again, they want to be involved in the kind of stuff that we're into. Again, I got kids that go down cleaning streets and stuff like that around our area. They want to take care of the community around them, but again, they got to feel like they're doing it for something, that impacts them.
I think.
So what's your age group? What there again, we're looking at age group. I mean, how many people my age?
It's
visit
pretty
your
evenly
store?
distributed.
Yeah,
Jim.
it's
Oh, yeah, my goodness.
Yeah, so it looks like the smallest is 20 to 34, and then second smallest would be over 65. But this range is 36 to 44 and 45 to 54, so it seems pretty evenly distributed.
And that's in our town?
That's
I can pull up-
Tonytown demographics.
Okay.
I just did a search for it.
I got people of all age groups looking to volunteer. I got people from 12 to 17 looking to volunteer. I got parents that volunteer, especially when we do stuff like Fortnite tournaments, Pokemon tournaments. Again, it's got to be something that interests them to really put their time into. And again, the kids even like to try to help around the building as far as making sure it's clean, making sure the area outside is clean and stuff like that. And it's because they feel that community aspect of that this is something that impacts me. Again, you just got to get them involved in stuff that they can actually feel that they are making an impact, that they can feel like this is actually helping.
Yeah, I think that's very, very well stated and accurate. You know, we certainly see a lot of volunteerism when it is meaningful to those individuals. So, you know, many people get involved in the various sports programs while their children are involved. You know, some stay, you know, a few years later and stuff, but when it's, you know, when it's their focus, when, you know, it's meaningful to them. And we have a number of young folks that put in a lot of effort to try to keep the skate park clean. And it's predominantly the kids that are using the skate park, but it means something to them. And, even as our Main Street effort was kind of waning in recent years, some of the individuals who had been kind of core volunteers, in that program, expressed some frustration that, they didn't feel like it was meaningful, that they were talking about the same things over and over, and, that to attract the interest, that it needs to be something, that resonates with people. And, I do think there is still a lot of volunteerism across the city, but it's in certain niches. We have, I think, a strong caring and sharing group that's an affiliation of all the local churches, and there's a lot of volunteer effort there. And, the sports programs again, but as far as there being like a specific city group that's focused on that kind of outreach, no. I think, at the staff level, everybody's trying to build relationships, with different organizations and groups within the city. And, we continue to do that, but there's not really a dedicated community outreach coordinator.
While we're all pondering XYZ, we got a few things to ponder for next time around. Possibly y'all think about whether or not it might be beneficial, and I'll volunteer to be like a point of contact to possibly reach out to the schools to talk about their community service hours, and possibly all these little niche groups, just to say, yeah, you can get school community service hours for what you're already doing or what your interest is. And maybe that could create a little momentum to maybe get more people, like, if you could actually get service hours for skate park cleanup, that'd be cool. But sometimes people might not think that through.
Yeah, and the schools are, certainly we do try to coordinate and provide opportunities for service hours and things like that. And that is, a pretty routine event. There's always stuff that can be done in the parks and things like that. So
I think communication though, like from being within the school system, like the kids or families who hear about it, they're like, awesome. But then there are kids who end of the year, they're like, oh, I didn't know. So, I mean, just getting the word out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
All right. So where do we want to go with this, Jim?
okay. So just jumping back one step, housing and community design, the housing element is a required element at the state level now, and there are certain criteria that we're going to have to meet for the plan to be favorably reviewed by the Department of Planning. So just kind of a heads up on that. And, affordable housing is a big issue statewide at this point. So I don't have all the details of what that element requires right now, but there is going to be kind of a framework for us to follow there.
One more question, curiosity question for the vision statement. Let's see, central location to other urban areas and attracting businesses and customers. Are those other urban areas like Frederick, Gettysburg, Westminster, or were y'all thinking bigger? Or was it just kind of our neighbors?
Where are you at, sir?
Page 10, the italicized, about halfway down, the first page of the document that was shared. About halfway down, the city will take advantage of its central location to other urban areas and attracting businesses and customers. I was just curious what maybe some of those targets might be. Because I feel like Chamber of Commerce, they reach out at times to neighbors.
I'd imagine you play into Westminster, right? Like, for instance, what we see is majority of the people that come out, while we do have a pretty big Tonytown locale, people walking and everything like that, the second biggest thing is Westminster. I mean, we have fortnight, 10 people that show up from Westminster alone. I think a lot of the business traffic that is seen is people coming from Westminster, people who may work here, go to Westminster, or work in Westminster, live here, that kind of stuff. Again, I think as far as the business goes, that's where we see the majority of our traffic coming from. Well, I mean, we also we have people come out from Baltimore. We've had people come out from DC. We have a lot of people come out from Littlestown. I'm not gonna lie, we don't see much Frederick traffic, but again, I think that's because our store competes with a lot of stores in the Frederick area.
Yeah, on Route 40.
Yeah. But, as you know, a lot of the stores here in town are a little bit more unique and where you might not see them in places like Littlestown. You might not see their specialty in maybe Westminster, and I think that's where you're gonna see that traffic coming from.
Okay.
That's just to chime in on that.
Okay. Do we have anything else in for this for tonight?
Okay.
So is this something we're going to be picking up on as we go month by month?
Yes, I'd like
Okay.
to just kind of try to chip away at it each
Right.
month if we're
Okay.
able. And I'm hoping that if we don't have things, blowing up on a weekly basis, that I'll be able to spend a little time helping Daryl by revisiting chapters, maybe a chapter or two at a time, and perhaps coming up with some possible draft language for you guys to review and discuss, at our next meeting. I know that seemed to work well when we made the attempt a couple of years ago. It seemed to work better to give you something to review and react to rather than just to say, okay, well, let's talk about transportation. So, I don't want this to be Jim's thoughts on the comp plan, but maybe, throwing some ideas out as discussion points can get things started. Then we'd also like to do a little bit more outreach, and advertise the comprehensive plan topic that we will be talking about each month and see if we can generate some interest in the community. We also may do some just quick online surveys, maybe like, SurveyMonkey stuff, just kind of very basic, and, see if we get some feedback on a couple different topics, see if it looks like we get a good response, maybe we can expand that effort. But, we have avenues to share the discussion that we didn't years ago. So maybe we can generate a little more community interest. Again, it may not be the greatest time for people to come out and participate. But if nothing else, maybe they'll, send an email and, we might get a little more input that way. I don't know if we want to go the route of holding like a workshop before the beginning of our regular business, or, have special meetings, or maybe do a, kind of a community forum from time to time. But, those are all things that we can entertain to try to get a little bit more public input than we typically have.
So maybe if you give us a little homework to do, we can be prepared for what we want to talk about that.
Yeah.
For that particular evening.
Right.
And we can be more on top of it.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
and I think there are some chapters that are kind of going to have some heavy lifting to do that will probably push back a little bit farther, but we can start with, there's going to be some basic stuff like demographics updates and things like that are not particularly exciting to talk about, but the community looks different than it did in 2010, and we need the plan to reflect that. So there's going to be some just kind of boilerplate stuff involved also, but if we can do a little bit more outreach and see if we can get a little more public participation, that, this is the community's plan, or it's supposed to be.
Yep.
So,
Okay. All right, let's go around the table. Bill, you have anything? Chris? Carol?
No, sir.
Any comments from the floor? Dan? Or, yeah, Mr. Myers?
Yeah, I'm good, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I guess looks like our next meeting should be August the 29th. Does that sound good for everyone? That's typically the last Monday. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
Okay, Liz. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thumbs up. Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Dan.
See ya.